Oh. Hey guys, Ian and Will here, Chief Instructors at Somerset Combat Academy. We're going to be covering this week 5 key factors, we'll call it, to training and just in general, what we look for in athletes, how we become better people, so forth and so on. We wanted to, and not that these are in any specific order. We're not like listing these from like most important to least important. It's just 5 characteristics that over the course of a decade and a half between us of training and working with athletes and things like that, just stuff we thought makes a big difference. So we're going to go ahead and kick off with sleep. Sleep is something that you don't get a lot of sometimes.
That's true. So sleep. I remember you telling me that one of Ben Bergeron's podcasts, it was like athletes need, it was like an insane amount of sleep. It was like 10 hours of sleep or something like that.
Yeah, he said 9, this was just maybe a month ago, he was like 9 edging up towards 10 hours. And I remember you mentioned, you were talking about how you're like, I just can't do that.
That's impossible.
I tried it. After you mentioned that, I was like, you know what? My kids are with my ex this week. I was like, I'm gonna try to do at least 9 hours of sleep. So I set my alarm to guesstimate when I would be falling asleep, and I got right between 8:45 to 9 hours and 15 minutes of sleep. Right? I couldn't go to sleep the next night. Consistently, I was sitting there. I was like, man, I should be tired by now, but I'm not. I don't know. What do you think?
I think different people are able to run. I remember reading some study there's only a small percentage of people in the world, but some people can function completely normally on 3 hours of sleep every night. I'm not one of them, but I also can function on well less than 9 hours of sleep. But I do think sleep is very, very important to your recovery, especially depending on what you're like I said, different people can function on different levels, but if you don't hit your level of necessary sleep, you're not going to be able to function. You're slowly, you're going to start to break down, and then one day you're going to sleep for 12 hours straight.
Well, scientifically, and I looked this up after I heard it because I wanted to make sure that I was actually getting correct information. The Mayo Sleep Clinic actually was talking about, he's there's 2 times throughout your entire life that your body naturally produces human growth hormone, which is what we all need for recovery. That's where the term beauty rest came from, because HGH, natural HGH, of course, is an anti-aging element. And the 2 times that you get human growth hormone produced within your body is 1 immediately after heavy lifting workout, or just a heavy workout in general. You get human growth, or your body produces HGH, and the other time is during deep sleep. So a lot of people make the misconception of, well, I slept for 7 or 8 hours, so I'm good. That's not always actually the case, because there's 3 levels to sleep. There's conscious awareness, which is where you're just starting to fall asleep, and sometimes you get that weird feeling falling and it jerks you back away. And then there's REM sleep, which is where most people think they need to be. That's when you're dreaming the rapid eye movement and stuff, but that's actually not deep sleep. Deep sleep is where you go after that, which is a fire alarm could be going off and you're dead to the world type deal.
That's actually happened last night. Apparently I woke up at 4 in the morning and I had 10 missed calls from Faith because I forgot to tell her that I had got home last night. I was freaking out. But then I think that could play in also on how much sleep you actually need. You would play how much deep sleep you're actually getting. If you're continuously being woken up in the middle of the night, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of sleep. So, what do you think for people should do who have unusual sleep cycles, or work nights or something like that? Do you have any suggestions for any kind of people like that, you think?
Man, the first thing I would say is one thing that we're all guilty of. If you own a cell phone or you have a TV in your room, you're guilty of it. If you are watching TV until you're just passing out, if you're playing on your phone until you just pass out, okay, well, unless you are one of those people who remembers to turn your night shift operation on your phone, or you have an LCD screen that produces no white light, you get what's called white light insomnia, which is where your brain is seeing lights that depict natural sunlight. So, and not that you're getting like UV rays or anything like that, but
your brain is tricked into thinking.
yes, so you don't produce the necessary levels of melatonin to get yourself to fall asleep. Further than that, even if you do remember this stuff, your mind being actively engaged in a cell phone, shooting a text message, playing on Facebook, looking at a TV screen, trying to process and digest the information that's coming out, you're keeping an activity level that doesn't need to be there. So once you're like, okay, I've watched an episode of my show, it's 11 o'clock, I know I gotta get up in the morning, have the discipline to shut it off. Put the phone on airplane mode and set it off to the side and charge it, you know. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. That's an excellent suggestion. I hadn't really thought about that. Yeah, so you would say about 30 minutes before it's time to go to bed. No bright lights, no cell phones, no TV, nothing like that. So I think that's an excellent idea.
Awesome. The next one we want to go over is recovery, and not that all of this stuff in essence, sleep and nutrition and how you program and all that stuff, that all leads into the recovery and health and wellness. But a lot of times I think people get misconceptions about conscious recovery. All right, so if you are taking a foam roller and you're rolling out your quad, or you've got a peanut in your back and you're trying to loosen your back up, then you go work out and that was your goal, that's not recovery. That's preparation for engagement.
It's warming up before.
Not a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm recovering. No, you're not. You're getting blood flow where it needs to go so that you can perform and have output. Recovery is what you do after we have performance and output. So
hard walk without the same effect as you run out and go for a jog for 10 minutes, you have the same effect.
Definitely. So mostly what you're looking for from a recovery aspect is the dopamine receptors of relaxation, right? So when we get done doing our hard workouts, when I watch you over here back squatting 400 pounds, you're wired after that. You know what I mean? But you're wired after that. God, man, I got it. Okay, so once that's over, then what? Most people that work out, I know because we know a lot of them, they go home sick, which is the absolute worst thing you can do to get waste products out of your muscles.
I can definitely attest to that. Driving up to school in Richmond every day, lift, squat heavy, the night before, and then right up in the morning, I'm sitting in a chair all day. When I get out of the car to walk home, and it's fall out of the car instead of walk out of the car.
Right.
But yeah, I agree. Definitely need to focus on recovery. Getting the tightness out of the muscle and stuff like that. I know that voodoo floss you got. That stuff's amazing.
Oh yeah, man. That's the best $20 I think we've probably ever spent. There's voodoo floss. For those of you who don't know, voodoo floss is like a piece of rubber, and you wrap it from distal to proximal away from the muscle and joint, so it kind of milks nastiness or waste products out of your muscles and tendons after you work out. Little uncomfortable while using it, to say the least, but once it comes off, your joints and muscles feel fantastic. What's something that you do to recover? It's end of the day, Will's already had his dinner and he's chilling. What's up?
Normally I like focusing on specific muscle groups. If it's I'll do stretching and stuff like that to focus. It's really more what's sore and what's hurting. What's tight, and I focus on that. And then I think a big part of as far as preventing injuries is good warm up. Hit the muscle groups you're doing. I know you like the ice baths. I'm not really the hugest fan of ice baths. I know you've read different conflicting articles on that, and talk a little bit about that.
So ice baths, basically from even the guy who came up with the RICE principle, rest, ice, compression, elevation, has since came out and said, hey, I got ice wrong. The only time ice is going to do anything of benefit is to inhibit pain. If you have injured yourself, you have torn something is bad boo-boo, and you apply ice, it slows down those electrical impulses to the brain to tell you that you're in pain. Other than that, the only thing you're doing is putting a roadblock in. So if you noticed, 2 years ago, it's CrossFit Games in San Diego. It's 111 degrees out, and these guys are getting done with the workout, and they're just diving into tubs of tubs of, okay, now fast forward to last year in, where were the games, Wisconsin? Yeah, so much cooler environment, much lower humidity. Like it was, just a mere fraction of the guys were, and girls for that matter, were jumping in the ice bath because they weren't trying to recover. They were trying to get their core temperature down because their body was in shock. It's like you're operating right now, not sick at 105-degree core temperature. Like that's damn near like melting brain level. So
a lot of people passing out and having to drop out.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of them. Thor's daughter dropped out. Katrin collapsed after one of her events. Dan Bailey was out. There's several heat injuries, from the games in California. Yeah, that's about it for like natural or
Basically, ice is just like blocking the pain. It's not fixing the problem.
Well, no, and then further than that, it's not only blocking the pain, but it puts a roadblock in on your body's ability to recover. Because how do we recover? We recover from getting nutrient-rich blood flow into injured, damaged, or trained muscle tissue, right? Or joints for that matter. So if you're putting ice on it and you're slowing all that stuff down, you're essentially putting sludge in your pipes, keeping fresh, nutrient-dense blood from getting to where it needs to in order to recover, which is, in essence, going back to the voodoo floss. That's better because if I got a really sore quad and I wrap voodoo floss around my quad and I milk all as much of everything out of it, when I take it off, you get that like rush feeling. You know what I'm talking about? That's your body trying to, it's in like almost like a mild state of shock because you took all the blood out of it. So it quickly wants to flood that area back with blood. Well, if you got it all out and this is fresh blood coming in, nutrient dense, we're helping speed up the process of recovery for all intents and purposes. Now, let's see. Idea number 3, or concept number 3, whatever you want to call it, nutrition. That's a big one. What do you do? Like, what's your nutritional program? Because every gym you got your protein.
As far as supplements go, all I'll use is protein pretty much, low carb, low sugar protein. As far as actual nutrition, high protein, low carb diets, mostly focus on. The big thing I think when discussing, especially we've discussed this in an earlier video about nutrition here, there's not very, traditionally the South does not have good nutrition.
Nope, I had biscuits, gravy, eggs, and bacon. Oh, and 3 pancakes for breakfast.
They got chocolate gravy here. Whoever thought that chocolate and gravy, would be, it's just, don't get me wrong, it tastes great, but
heart attack in a boat.
As far as actually nutritionally sound, this place, the South, is not, well known for that. So I think a lot of things, and especially also the types of jobs around here, like factory jobs, stuff like that, people don't have, stuff they don't believe they have time to actually get into, I can't cook, a good healthy meal, I just have to go through the drive-through. And I think meal prepping is a big part of that. A crock pot is my best friend.
Right.
So, and I know you're great at meal prepping. It's what do you think about all that, and what do you do exactly?
Well, okay, before I say what I do, note, me and this guy, we're pro athletes. This is what we do for a living. So we've had the discipline and the years to build up knowledge, right? Usually what I tell people day one, anytime people ask me about diet and exercise, remember I told you I wrote a paper about this for school. I basically came up with the concept of I don't have people diet to begin with, because more important than diet is exercise and training. And my methodology or mentality behind that is everybody, when you first started working out, you started working out eating what you normally ate, right? So your body, in essence, is accustomed to converting, and most people's bodies are accustomed to converting crap, processed sugars and flours and nasty stuff into energy, right? It's not the most efficient energy, but your body can operate on it. And what I've noticed throughout, time of training people and working with, Marines and all that stuff is more often than not, if you just get guys and girls dedicated to a principle of training. Like, I'm going to commit myself to training X amount of days a week. I'm going to do these workouts, whatever. More often than not, I see people 2-3 weeks even. Instead of walking through the door with a liter of Coke, they now got a Gatorade. A week or two later, you'll see them coming in with the water. And you hear, like in our groups out here, like when we're at the end of the day and people are talking about what they're getting ready to go do, like you can listen to pick people out there like, hey man, I'm gonna go swing by Wendy's on my way home. And then that same person, after 2-3 weeks of training, maybe longer, maybe less, now all of a sudden is, yeah, I got dinner at home. I'm cooking at home. Like people's psychology changes. But if you try to make them diet and exercise at the same time, you're creating a perfect storm for failure.
I can agree with that. Like it's hard to focus on two things at once, especially if you go from eating nasty and not working out to trying to, I'm going to eat perfectly clean, I'm going to work out 2 times a day, every day. It's impossible. It's never going to happen.
Burnout. But as far as like me on a personal level, which I mean, you and I are both extremely heavy for our weight classes. Like you're, somewhere usually around 200, 205, and typically you fought at welterweight and won a couple matches at 175. As much muscles you put on, that might be a thing of the past. But
I think I could make 170, but it'd be very painful, very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it for nothing short of a very large paycheck. But I'm usually, when I'm in shape off season, I'm usually about 180, 181, 182. So cutting for either one of us, we're looking at 30 pounds. It can be an arduous process. But typically what I do in the morning is I get up and I have I think Coach Glassman, from the founder of CrossFit, I really think he got the nutritional aspects right, and I use it even when I'm cutting weight. So lean meats, mostly vegetables, some fruits, nuts, and seeds, little starch, no sugar. Like that's right there from the CrossFit manual. And I think that's absolutely perfect, because I can within 1 week, not really altering my training that much and just taking processed sugar out of my diet, I'm down 3 pounds usually almost every time. Then when you start adding in concentrations of larger, most of our diet, I'd say at some point 65 to 70% of my diet is raw vegetables. So I mean, I'm just constantly eating, because the majority of them is negative calories, but they're so nutrient dense. You get a lot out of it, and it really starts helping chisel the body fat off. And of course, just the mentality of shopping the perimeter of the grocery store, where the raw foods are at, where your lean meats are at, staying away from pork. Coach Mark Glecko out in 29 Palms, he said it the best when it comes to meat. He's like, how many legs does a pig have? 4. Awesome. Don't eat it. The fewer legs, the better quality of meat, less fat, less saturated, acids and stuff in it. Is you get better and better. So how many legs does chicken and turkey have? 2. How many legs do fish have? 0. And for the most part, to a layman, it works.
Yeah. Now I'll say for you and me and us who have been doing it for a while, I guess it's very easy to be like, well, this is what we do, and then, and there's a lot of people, I'm sure, that watching this video that are like, well, I can't just go from eating whatever. What if they could fix one thing? What would you say that one thing would be that they could just we talked about maybe 1% improvements. Like, what's 1% improvement dietarily that they could do?
The worst thing in this area is...
I think I know what you're going to say, and I was going to say it myself, but go ahead and say it.
I was going to say consumption of soda.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say.
I want you to think about this, though. Okay, so this little can of Coke has, I think it's like 28 grams of sugar, right? That's like almost a cup of sugar in one can of Coke. Now, I can take a tablespoon, or not even a tablespoon, a full, heaping teaspoon. That's what, 3 grams? And I can... I meant a teaspoon. My bad. Sorry. That heaping teaspoon, where I got around it. And that's about 3 grams of sugar. And you can sprinkle that over an entire bowl of, cardboard cereal that's organic or whatever. And it makes it sweet. So why in the crap do you need... the human consumption... I saw this, heard this not too long ago, but it was something like the average human in America, person in America, can intake something like 30 pounds of sugar a year. Like, that's absolutely insane. You do not need sugar. That's it.
I read something. I don't know if it's true or not, but I read something. They put some sort of chemical in the soda because where you can't taste the high sugar content, that's in it. Because if you could taste how sweet it really is, you would throw it up.
I believe it. Well, it was a European school. They were using, they were testing cocaine, and I know this sounds crazy. They were like having people eat like a couple tablespoons of pure sugar and having people snort cocaine. I know it sounds terrible, but it's just the truth.
Yeah, that's similar brain.
Yep, they did the like a brain functions test, and the same areas that lit up under cocaine lit up and at times lit up brighter with sugar intake. This stuff is so addictive. Yeah, right? Don't call it Coke for no reason.
Yeah, and then I agree, especially with this area. Like you'll see, they got cases of soda for a couple bucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree.
It's crazy, but I agree with the one thing, especially around here, that if you could change one thing in your diet, it would be stop drinking soda. I think you'd see major changes just off of that.
Mm-hmm. And okay, I'm about to make some people mad. I hope y'all forgive me. The number one thing I hate hearing from people around here that ties into everything we've talked about and will continue to tie into things we talk about. Well, my granddaddy, he smoked cigarettes since he was 13 years old and drank a 12-pack of Mountain Dew every day, and he's 65 and doing just fine or whatever. Okay, so the chart of health and wellness, you've seen this. So we have fitness on this end, we have wellness, which is just the absence of disease, and then we've got disease on this end, making a rainbow, right? Just because somebody is at wellness for a moment does not mean they are not a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. I have never met that 65-year-old, 50-year smoker that's drank a 12-pack of Mountain Dew a day since he was 13 years old that didn't at some point just up and die. Massive coronary heart attack, huge strokes. Like the reality is nature is not going to let you do that for only so long. And then the problem is when that first thing kicks, because you have no fitness, you have no health, you have no real wellness backing you up, it's a domino effect. And by the time you hit disease, or that individual hits disease, they're usually knocking on death's doorstep. And doctors will tell you, well, and you hear it all the time. Like I have family members that just found out that they've got bad stage lung cancer, and they finally quit smoking, and I'm like,
yeah,
a little late. You know what I mean? Like that is a figment of your imagination if you think you have somebody in your family that's like that or think you're going to be that person. I'm sorry. You got anything else to add on for nutrition?
No, let's go.
All right, training methodology. So I'm going to start this one off by saying conditioning-based programs. If you walk into a box or a gym like this or whatever, and they have a coach that tells you they're an endurance coach, and you aren't specifically training for a marathon, you're probably walking up to somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing. And I'll tell you why. Because every gym that I've been to, every box that I've been to, the people who know how to coach, the people who aren't afraid to engage their class, to teach them techniques, to correct them, the people that live this life and do it, don't need to give you a 30, 40-minute workout to keep you occupied so that they don't really have to bother with you. What do you think?
I can agree with that. I can also, I agree entirely with what you're saying. I say as far as like coaching and whatnot, like I think something to look for when you do go into a gym is that they actually are coaching you. That they're like if they're, what's the point of having the coach there if he's not actually coaching you or not correcting you. And that can tie into people don't like being coached, but at the same time, like this is what you're here for, is to learn how to do stuff. So you know, you need to actually listen to your coaches, and you need to have a coach that's actually not just, you know, having you do whatever so they are working out while you're working out or stuff like that. Like if they're going to be a coach, they have to actually be there to coach you. And I think that's something that Vincent, our head fitness coach here, is extremely good at.
Without a doubt. So give me a workout, a day in the life of Will. What does Will do like on a daily basis as far as like what your training methodology is like?
Well, I'll try to follow like the CrossFit methodology of being like a jack of all trades. Not really. You're not the best runner. You're not the best lifter. You know, you're not the best gymnast, but you can do you're mediocre at everything. So that's more what I try to follow. Like depending on what kind of, if I have a specific competition come up, I'll obviously focus more on that. Like right now, I'm really focusing on getting stronger, so I'm doing a lot more strength workouts. So you know, heavy squatting, heavy lifts for the most part. When I had my fight a couple weeks ago, I pretty much cut out all strength training and focused almost entirely on cardio and endurance. I know got like a powerlifting competition coming up in August, right? We're gonna be hosting one then, so I'm mostly focusing on power lifts. But Pat wants to do an Olympic lifting competition, so I'll probably be focusing mostly on Olympic lifts. So it's kind of really just depends, but as far as like actual training methodologies, try to be the jack of all trades, try to be good at everything, constantly varied exercises.
That's fantastic. Well, for the better part of a year and a half now, I've been predominantly focused on competing in professional mixed martial arts. So it's really difficult because I want to be strong, and like, you know, I started getting my lifts to where I want them to be, and then
that is so true. I continue on this.
I get big, and it's like, you know, it's really difficult to come back down, especially as I've gotten older, because like, you know, I'm in my prime right now. My frame's finally filled out. You know, back when we first started training together, there was nothing for me to walk around at 161, 162 pounds, but we only lifted 2-3 times a week.
Like lifting almost twice what we were now, like both volume and weight wise.
Yeah. So it's but typically what I'll do is, because Tuesday and Thursday mornings I train martial arts, and then every evening is martial arts. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, strength and conditioning mornings. Usually Monday morning is heavy back squat, followed by a middle of the road metcon, like something 20 minutes or less, MRAP or something along those lines. Wednesday morning, because I'm trying to recover from, this is now 72 hours in of 2 days, I'm usually doing calisthenics with deadlifts. And then I try to run 5K. That's my slow 5K, so it's just a jog. And then Thursday morning again, I train in the morning, martial arts, and then every other Thursday, I'm off in the evening. And then on the Thursdays that I am here, I don't roll. I just teach class, whatever class I'm teaching for the evening, and then I don't participate, I just teach, and that's a recovery day for me. Then Friday morning is usually some type of heavy pressing, whether it's clean and jerks, bench press, shoulder overhead, something along those lines. And then I usually do a barn burner metcon, something 10 minutes or less that, high heart rate,
It's like a sprint. Workout.
And then, Friday evening we have sparring practice, and then Saturday we always do wrestling and some type of crazy long, like, let's go do Murph or
Something like that.
iron triathlon or something super stupid.
More of the Murph coming up soon.
Right.
I will say though, like I haven't been fighting, trying at least. I know we haven't actually got to fight, every couple of months, but trying to fight every couple of months.
I got really close. I've gotten like within 1 week 3 times.
It's hard to be competitive in a sport where there is no weight classes such as CrossFit, and also be competitive in a sport where it's completely by weight class. So it's hard to definitely, as far as like what you're training and what your nutrition is and all that, really it's hard. It's honestly, it is impossible to do both. So you gotta kind of focus on one or the other.
Anything else to add for training before we move on to the last one? All right, the last one, and this is definitely not the least. We're going to call it character and relationships, because I can tell you from personal experience trying to groom a lot of athletes up. You know, Will's been grooming a lot of athletes up. We work with a lot of kids. Good people make good athletes. They're people that take constructive criticism, that take criticism, period, even if it's not constructive. Some people are just mean. It's just the truth. I mean, I had lots of non-constructive criticism on active duty. Hey, you with the face! But, you know, people with good, sound character make good athletes, like you. I mean, that was one of the things that I fell in love with you about, being my brother, man. I was like, this is one of the most stand-up, awesome cats that I've, ever had the privilege of meeting, and now here we are, like, almost a decade later. But what do you think?
I agree. Like, you gotta have strong moral character to be successful in, as far as like in any really kind of sport, or at least strong moral character in that, like, you are perseverant. You can take criticism. You don't have an ego. You're able to. Did I already say perseverant? Mm-hmm. You have self-discipline. Like, if you're someone who has no self-discipline, who thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and is lazy or whatever, like, you're not going to get anywhere. Like, you might have success for a day or two, but then you're going to fall off the wagon, and it's not going to work out. It takes somebody with self-discipline, strong moral character to actually to get anywhere in life as well as fitness.
I completely agree. And then a part of having strong character is you build foundational relationships with people. And one of the things that I've talked about, like, I've done some speaking engagements at the college. I've done one for the Christian school. I've been to, where does Nate work at? The Youth Development Center.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's
a
correctional facility.
Yeah, but one of the things that I've especially when I'm talking to ladies, for example, and I ask them, like, what keeps them from coming into a gym or stuff like that, and well, I tried this gym out, or I went to Globo Gym or whatever, and Creeper Dave in the corner was over there, staring at me, and I'm sure, like, some gyms around here have like ladies only rooms, and I've spoke with some of those ladies, and they get aggravated and quit going because guys still come in there. They don't pay attention. The staff doesn't really pay attention because they're just getting paid to sit behind a counter and occasionally go out and wipe things down. Whereas when you have relationships with the people that you train with, like what we cultivate here with each class, with each group of people, everybody's on first name basis. You don't have that to worry about. And then, furthermore, not trying to sound like a badass or anything, but as well as I do, if Creeper Dave comes walking in here, I'll kick him in the face. Like,
stick around too long.
Nope.
That kind of ties back into one of our very first podcast. We talked about team-based training, work group fitness, stuff like that. Like, you have that where everyone's there, and you've got those relationships that are pushing you and helping you get better, and that just really ties into what you were saying right there.
Absolutely, man. Well, guys, you got anything else for them? That covers our five keys to being successful in your fitness endeavor.
I think it's the longest video we ever done.
Yeah, this is a long one, but it's a lot of good information.
Yeah, that's good. Good talk.
All right, guys. Please click like, subscribe at the bottom, and catch you next week.